Sorry about that. And let me turn this up here. And then more. Sorry,
my
just
old
getting started here. All right, so hopefully everybody can hear us okay. I'm just going to go ahead and unmute everyone really quickly so we can see if we can hear everybody. All right, can folks hear us? You're unmuted now, so if you just give us a yes or no, you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Sounds good. All right. So this is Jenna Whitson, and I think I've spoken to most of you before. I am a child nutrition advocate with Hunger Free Vermont. So I kind of help out, get people started with the program, and help Karen do some of the training and outreach work. But the person you're going to be hearing from the most today is Karen Abbott, who's here with me, and I'll just have her.
Hi, welcome. We had a little feedback there, but I think it's resolved itself. So I'm Karen Abbott. I work for the Agency of Education as the Child and Adult Care Food Program Coordinator. And today we're going to talk about the AreaEligible After-School Meals Program. And I'm fortunate enough to have Jenna here to help answer any questions or concerns that you all might have. And look forward to bringing you all onto the program. So let's get started.
Okay, so to start, I'm just going to quickly go over the webinar technology. And just to check in, I have everybody unmuted again here. Can everybody see what we're sharing on the screen here? Just a quick yes or no. So you should see using webinar technology on the screen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go ahead and mute everybody because we're having some feedback issues, but I will let you know how to go ahead and answer a question if you would like to. So on the screen, you'll see a slide about using the webinar technology. So you'll see that on the left-hand side here, you are able to open or hide the side panel. On the right-hand side of the screen, you should see a side panel that gives you all of your webinar options. And that's what you'll use to ask questions or to chat or to add a comment. So in order to ask a question, there are a couple different ways you can do that. One is that you can enter a question in the question box. So you'll see on your screen you have a little box. It says questions. You can just type a question in there and send. And as Karen is talking with you guys, I will be monitoring the screen for any questions that we might be getting. The other thing that you can do is also raise a hand. There's a little, on the left-hand side of your side panel, there's a little hand button. You can click there, and then we can call on you to ask a question. Also, at the end of the webinar, we'll just go ahead and open it up and unmute everybody and allow some time for questions then. If you're having any trouble connecting or trouble about asking questions or hearing us, either hang up and redial. That sometimes helps. Or you can contact me. My cell phone number is there. I'll have my cell phone on hand here. The number is 603-496-0755. You can always give me a call and let me know if you're having any problems. I think that's everything with the webinar technology. Definitely give me a call, let me know if any questions come up, but I'll go ahead and hand it over to Karen to start talking about the program. There we go.
Great, thank you, Jenna. So talking a little bit about the after-school meals program, this particular program is administered through what we call the Child and Adult Care Food Program, as opposed to the National School Lunch Program, the School Breakfast Program, or one of the other nutrition programs you might be involved with at your school. And it's important as it provides nutritional assistance to these much needed after school programs. It allows kids that are in extended care to receive suppers and or snacks and up through the age 18, which is something that the Child and Adult Care Food Program hadn't typically catered to anybody over age 13 in the past. So there's a couple of things we're going to talk about today, and those are eligibility and what you have to offer to be eligible to receive reimbursement for those meals. And then specifically what you need to track for us to be able to file a claim for reimbursement. So looking at the benefits, I'm sure you all are well aware that first and foremost that children are hungry when they arrive at their after-school program, and a simple snack doesn't always fill them up. You know, they need more than that. They're oftentimes there for several additional hours in their day, and or they're there for sporting events that keeps them there until into the evening. So it's really important that they have the additional foods to kind of satisfy those cravings so that their behavior issues are decreased, that you have a happy after-school program. You know, hunger is an increasing issue here in Vermont. We have more and more families that are food insecure. Statistically, I don't know them off the top of my head, but Jenna's here, so if any of you have questions. But this is an important program because unlike the National School Lunch Program, the supper program will reimburse you for meals that are served on weekends, holidays, anytime school's in session with the exception of summer vacation. So if you have a snow day, if you have a school vacation week, you can still feed the kids in your communities in addition to those after-school times. Other states have reported that using the supper program have reported decreases in behavior problems associated with hunger. And most importantly, well, not most importantly, but another notable fact is about the sustainability of this funding source. So unlike individuals that you receive free, reduced, or paid customers in your National School Lunch Program, these are all paid at the free rate. So it's a significant amount of money, and folks often find that they are able to increase the quality of the foods or staffing because of the revenues that are coming in as part of the program. So let's talk a little bit about who's eligible to participate. So first and foremost, you must be in an area where there's 50% or more of the children are eligible for free and reduced meals. I think all of you that are on the call today, we've already made that determination for you, so there shouldn't be any question. There may be, you may be representing one school, and there's another school in your district that may not have met eligibility yet, and we can help you with that. But you can always call us to determine if you're in a 50% area. It used to be that we only took a look at the data that came from the October claim and used that for the annual determination. And now we use data from any month. So there's many more schools that potentially can be eligible because of that change in regulation. So if there's any question about your school or another school in your area, please feel free to contact me and I can help you make a determination about your eligibility based upon this requirement. The next part that you have to meet, and most of you this isn't an issue because your school kitchen is monitored by the Department of Health, but you have to meet health and safety standards if you're not a licensed program. So this would only be an issue if you are sponsoring a site, off-school site, and we can help you with that further if that applies to you, but I don't think that would necessarily be an issue for anybody that's on the call today. And the third eligibility component is that the program must include an educational or enrichment activity in a supervised after-school hours program. So let me kind of dissect that statement, because the original intent of this program and what the program has now allowed for have kind of changed over the course of the year. So what has to happen is the school needs to offer an after-school program that includes educational enrichment or educational activities. That is not to say that children who don't participate in that program can participate in the after-school program. So an example might be children who stay after school for sports. As long as the sports teams are available to all kids, then they would be eligible to receive snack and or supper. Or a group of children stay for this individual piece of drama or extended band practice or something like that. Even though it's not part of the after-school program, those kids could still participate in this program for supper and or snack. So this one's a little bit tricky. If you have a question about whether you have an educational enrichment activity, you can feel free to contact us too, or ask questions now or during at the end of the presentation as to whether your activities qualify. Anything on that one, Jenna, that we didn't cover? Okay. All right. So now let's talk about when the meals can be served. So what can't happen in this program is that you can't send a little baggy lunch home with the kids on the school bus. The actual school day must end, and then the meal must be offered. The kids need to eat in a congregate feeding site. They have to wait till the school day has ended. Now, that's not to say that children who attend, for instance, a part-day preschool, their meal could be served after their school day ended, and that could be a lunch rather than a supper because they got done at noontime. But typically, this would happen after the school day has ended for the school. You can only claim during the school year, but you may claim during school vacations and snow days and those types of school closure times.
Weekends too?
Weekends, yep, you have to get pre-approval, so we have to be aware of that, and we have to be aware that you're offering the same types of educational enrichment components on the weekends too. But yes, you may claim them on the weekends. And once that transfers over to a vacation day, a snow day, a weekend day, you can serve different meals. So it doesn't have to be snack and supper. It could be, snack and lunch or something else. So one meal and one snack per day. So good thing Jenna brought that up, because that was our next our next point, but that's good. So weekends and holidays, this can be served. So this is a nice opportunity if you're in a really high need area and these children on school vacations aren't receiving the nutrition that they need. This is, this can be very vital for a lot of kids in those areas. And then in Vermont, we like to adhere to at least 2 hours between snack and supper if you're going to serve them both. So a lot of folks here serve their supper immediately after the school day has ended. So at 2:30, at 3 o'clock, or whatever their school day has ended, they actually serve their supper then. And then for those that are open for multiple hours, they might do their snack later in the evening. But you can do that however you choose. It's just many people find that the children are ready for a meal come 3 o'clock. And we found that fairly successful with everybody that participates thus far in the program. Let's talk about money. And you know what I just realized is that this slide might not be correct depending on the last time we gave this. So I apologize. We have an increase in reimbursement rates. And do I know them off the top of my head? Of course not. That would just make me look really
I think I
smart.
actually looked at them this morning.
So they're a smidge higher than this. I think 86 is our snack rate.
Oh,
82? Okay.
I'll look it up.
All right, Jenna's going to look it up so we don't look completely foolish. Oh, it already happened. Okay. So
new reimbursement rates are issued every year.
And we haven't given this webinar in a couple of months, so now we're kind of, oh, Karen should have done her homework and updated this. But anyway, so the snack reimbursement rate is 80-something cents. We're looking it up right now, and supper is over $2.90. In addition to that, you get what's called a cash in lieu of commodities payment. So rather than receiving a USDA foods allotment, you receive money in this program instead. So it brings it up well over $3 per every single supper that you serve. You know, that's a fairly significant amount of reimbursement to help with this program or with any of your other child nutrition programs financially. So an example might be using these rates that expired June 30th. 40 children receiving supper only 5 nights a week would be $126 a day, $632 a week, or $2,654 a month. So that's, you know, that's a nice bump to the revenue for the school nutrition programs. And Jenna looks like she might have an answer for us.
So the snack is 82 cents.
Can I hear you on that side?
I'm not sure. So the snack rate that has been updated just last month, it's 82 cents for the snack, and then it's $2.98 for the supper. So when you add cash in lieu,
24 3/4.
Yeah. So
are you going to try to do that in your head?
I'm just going to add 8 cents to it. So it's about $3.24 for the supper reimbursement rate.
Now that you've all lost faith in us, let's move on.
And yeah. And does everybody receive cash in lieu?
Everybody that serves suppers. You don't get cash in lieu for snacks, just for suppers.
For suppers.
Yep.
And not commodities.
Right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the actual meal service. So there's some different options about how the meal can be served. So in the program, we allow for what's called pre-plated, where you serve all 5, well, if we're talking supper, all 5 components on the plates in the amounts, in the minimum amounts that they need to be served. Or you can do what's called family style, and this is really nice because a lot of schools participate in this, even though they're a typical cafeteria setting. They're still able to incorporate family style, and what that means for any of you that are familiar is that all of the food in the amounts that the children, you know, the minimum portion sizes that the children would receive are placed in bowls or platters, individual for the table, in the center of the table, and the children are allowed to pass them around and make choices about whether or not they want to, you know, take a serving of this or a partial serving of that. And, you know, it really respects individuals' likes and dislikes, provides a teaching environment, engages both staff and the children, and are really cost effective because you can still claim reimbursement for a child who may be having, you know, a particular lack of interest in a lot of the foods and, you know, only wants fruit today or something like that. So, and eventually the peer pressure of the other children at the table are going to get them encouraged to try more things. And I know these are older kids. This works really nice with the younger kids, but I've seen it work with the older kids too, because family style meals is not something that they might be accustomed to in their own homes. Oftentimes this is something that, you know, busy family life doesn't allow for anymore. So you can always stick with the standard cafeteria style serving line. You may choose to continue offer versus serve. So if you want to follow the school meal pattern and not the CACFP meal pattern, you can do that, and you can do offer versus served and follow those regulations. So some people do stick with that so that the kids don't have to be taught a different meal pattern or some such differences between the child and adult care food program versus the National School Lunch Program. So we talked about this a few minutes ago, but it's really important that you know that kids must eat while they're in attendance. So that means that they can't take it and go. They have to eat in a congregate feeding site and with their peers. Now, we've had situations where children have broken off into small groups in the after-school program. So we have programs that meet all in the cafeteria and participate in their meal as a big group and then break off. Or we've had programs that their first organization is in these smaller groups, so they don't come as a larger group in the cafeteria or a setting like that. And that's okay if there's multiple children. I don't have a particular number for you that if there's more than 3 kids, it's okay. But if there's smaller attendance groups, that's okay to count those as congregate feeding sites also. And then our recommendation is that you have at least 2 hours between the meal services if you want to offer multiple meals. Okay, so the child and adult care food program meal pattern currently looks like this. I say currently because we're anticipating a change to the meal pattern anytime. It may or may not be similar to what you experienced in the school programs, but it will not be as stringent, meaning, for instance, it will not have minimums. It won't have maximums, it will have minimums. So you're allowed to serve more than what's listed here. But it may increase the number of times you have dark leafy greens, bright orange vegetables, whole grains, those types of things that you're used to with the school meal pattern. As of right now, it's just as it is. And if you adhere to this, that's great, but you need to choose whether you're going to adhere to this meal pattern or the school meal pattern when you apply to us. Okay, so looking really quickly at this, for snack you have to choose 2 of the 4 components to qualify, and they have to be from 2 separate categories. So an example of something that might not qualify would be fruit and vegetable. You'd have to have it from 2 separate categories because that currently falls within the same component. For supper, there's 5 components: milk, meat alternate, fruit and vegetable, and bread grain. The fruit and vegetable is where the 5th component comes in because you need to have 2 of those totaling that amount listed in the column to the right here. No questions, Jenna?
Not yet. Doesn't look like it.
Well, that's good.
Remember that if you have questions, then you can go ahead and type them into the question box or click the raise your hand button to let us know.
All right. So those are kind of the basics around, around how to administer the program, what it looks like. Now we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about what records we need you to keep to justify your reimbursement. And they're similar, but they're different. So whereas you might use your point of service, your point of sale system at the school, you might do some paperwork here for filing your claim, and that's a decision you can make. If you want to continue to use your point of sale service, that's fine. You would just let us know that in your application also. So all of the forms that we're going to talk about, including the AreaEligible After School Manual, are all available online. They're posted on our website, and the address is listed here on the screen. But I also want to let you know that Jenna sent you all an email about 5 minutes before we started today, and in it was a copy of all of these documents too. so that you have them to download and save to your own computer.
I will also send the link to the forms, the website with the forms.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and do that now.
All right, so she'll go ahead and do that. We're going to take an actual look at some of these. So one of the requirements is that you keep an attendance record, and you need to keep the, this is required so that you can give us a number that's called the average daily attendance on your claim every month. And you may choose to use any of these records, or you can choose to create your own or keep them in a different format. What we've done is just created the simplest of forms for any of you who don't already have something that's working for you. So this is a basic attendance record where you list the students' names on the left-hand side and just give a check mark as to whether or not they were there during that particular day. I assume many of you will ask questions as we move through these. One of the things is if you're not used to collecting average daily attendance, it's the number of it in attendance divided by the number of days that you were operational, and you always need to round that up to the next highest number. So if it's 20.1, you would round it to 21. Never round down, because you can never claim a partial child. The next, excuse me, sorry. It's never good to lose your voice on a webinar, I guess.
It's a lot of talking.
And it's a lot of coughing in your ear, sorry. Okay, so the next one is a meal count sheet, and you'll notice there's a whole bunch of columns on here. And this one, truthfully, was designed so if a program was running multiple different aspects, they could keep track of it all in one. You're really going to focus on the furthermost two columns on here, the area eligible snack and or the area eligible supper. And this, the important piece about this is one that can be done at the register line if you want to use your point of service system. But it has to be done as a point of service count, meaning taken at the time of the meal service. It can't be done as an afterthought or by attendance records or something like that. So it has to be done at the appropriate time. And if you're doing family style, the appropriate time would be when all of the children are seated and participating in the meal. The next one, for any of you that work in the food service arena should recognize, is a meal record. The good thing is this is a simplified meal record, certainly not as complex as the one you're keeping for the National School Lunch Program. So what we're looking for here is that it's kept daily, it's completed by the person who prepares the meals, and it uses detail to describe the foods that were being served and or offered. And that the amounts that are listed are the total amounts prepared and not the per serving size for each. So an example might look like, you know, we had vegetable lasagna today. The meat alternate might be the cheese. It might be some additional protein that you added. So you would list the total amount of the cheese in that meat alternate category. Under fruit and vegetable, you would list both of the fruits and vegetables that were offered and the total amounts. So most of you should be familiar with how to complete this record, but if you're not, you can always give us a call. And the last form is something that you may not be as familiar with. So one of the requirements as a to participate in this particular program is to show that you're document that you're a nonprofit food service. So you have to verify that the CACFP reimbursement that's being used is solely for improving the food service operation. And this report actually helps you document what your actual costs are for the child and adult care food program. So the way that you would complete the form is to save copies of all your receipts and then enter the information that's applicable into the report. This, along with the other 3 forms that we've shown you, are all important because they're all required information to be able to file your claim for reimbursement. So if you are a person who does not shop separately for their after-school program than from their school program, you can use your receipts, you know, your Reinhardt, your USDA Foods receipts on here, and you can apply a claiming percentage. So how you would determine that is you would take the total number of meals that are served through your food service program and what percentage of them are suppers, and you would apply that to all your invoices. So if you have questions on how to come up with that figure, you can always talk to Jenna or I, and we can help you determine that. So you don't have to have separate receipts. The nice thing about having separate receipts, if you can do that, is that you can truly show the profitability of the program, and what, if any, improvements can be made to the program, but it's not required. So if any of you are encountering some difficulties with that, just let us know and we can give you a hand with that. And then also you want to determine what your program labor, so the labor that's spent on cooking, shopping, preparing, cleaning up for the after-school meals program. All right. So let's talk about money. That's always everyone's favorite. And rather than just show you screenshots, I'm going to bring you right into the claiming system so you can see what it really looks like. Let's hope this works. Of course it does, because I was already signed in. All right, so most of you should be familiar with what the Child Nutrition Program's claiming website and application website looks like, but if you're not, this is it. If you need a login for this, you can always ask us, and we can add you to the list. So,
and maybe just a reminder too, just a quick reminder that for those of you that this will apply to those of you that actually are going in and doing your claims now. For those of you, I think there are several of you from the same supervisory union, your claims might go to a central person at the district level at the supervisory union who will enter these for you. So so this part may only apply to some of you and not to others, but at least you can see kind of where the information goes and what they're going to be inputting once they get it.
That's good, because it also will show us what we need to collect to be able to give to them to input. So
right,
it would be a nice piece of information even if they don't enter. Yep. Okay. All right, my voice doesn't seem to be getting any better, so I apologize for my little coughing fit. Okay, so I'm going to sign in as myself, so it's going to look a little bit different than what you see, but I'll show you the differences so you're not, of course it's not going to work, right? Okay. So the first thing I need to do is get this out of my way. Okay, so see how I'm over to the right-hand side, and rather than clicking on the NSLP, I'm on the CACFP, which is the Child and Adult Care Food Program. Big difference, because you're not going to file this claim like you do your National School Lunch. You're going to file it under a different program. So we click on there, and then if this were you, your supervisory union would show up here. You wouldn't have to select one. So that's going to be something that looks a little bit different for you all than it does for me. And I'm going to click all just to grab one. Sorry. All right, so let's choose the Burlington School District. And when you're filing, when you first join the program, you'll receive an email from Jenna or I that will indicate that you need to fill out your online application, and this is where you do that. So under applications, you'll see agreements, and there'll be an agreement which is listed, the first thing here listed on the left. That's really the financial information and so forth for your organization, followed by center agreements. So these are all of the actual site agreements that you have with us. So separate locations, separate programs, that type of thing. Followed by a budget, a management plan, which is essentially just a assurances, you know, you kind of check yes and no to, and then a checklist, which means that you have to send us a couple of documents. So those are the only requirements, so it's fairly simple. And then I'm going to show you how to actually submit a claim. So after your application's been approved and you're up and running and you received a technical assistance visit from us and everything's great and you're ready to file your claim, you come over here, and this will look a little different because you're all CCCs, so you'll only have that option. And we're going to enter our claim for, well, technically we would never have a claim for August because you can't run during the summer months, but we're going to pretend like this is brand new for us. So we have add original claim, and we're going to add our claim for this site down here. And this is bringing us back to all of the information that we just talked about. So we need to know how many kids are enrolled in the program. If you are a school-wide program, a drop-in site, typically a high school, this would be the number of kids that are enrolled in your school. If you are a licensed child care program, specifically an after-school program for younger elementary kids, you probably have a number of kids that are enrolled in after school, and that would be the number you would enter here. So that number goes under enrollment total, and it also goes under free, that total amount. Nothing under reduced or paid, so you can skip over those. The number of days of operation is the number of days you were open for that particular month. That should be the same as what you see when you file your National School Lunch Program. So we're going to say that we are open 20 days. The average daily attendance, we need to know on average how many kids of your 100 enrolled children, how many show up. So that could be whatever. I mean, I don't have a particular number.
65.
65, okay. We got a big school. The next one down says Title 20 funded children, and this is not something that you need to fill in. So you should never write anything under number 3. It should be left blank. Number 4 comes from your application. You do not need to be a licensed program to participate in this. Therefore, some of you will have this kind of fictitious number that corresponds to a fictitious expiration date. So don't worry if that's some crazy number. Just make sure it's higher than what your actual enrollment is. Then we're going to scroll down to the total meals served. This is pretty important, so pay attention. Don't enter anything under these first 4 blocks. Okay? You want to enter all of your information under these 4 blocks. And if you're just serving supper, you would enter area eligible supper. The only time you enter breakfast, lunch, or snacks is if you've asked to provide those things. So I'm not sure how many of you are planning to do one versus another, but this is where you would enter the number. So the only time you should have breakfast and lunches is if you were open for a school vacation week, if you're open on a holiday or a weekend or something like that. So typically you'll only have numbers under supper and snack. How many suppers did we serve, Jenna? We served 1,000. That's a good number. And then, so we're only serving suppers at our program, and the kids are loving it. Under expenditures is where you're going to come up with how much you've spent for the month. So this is where you enter the receipts, and you may have receipts just for the after-school program, or you may have receipts that are a combination, and therefore you're using a percentage, and those would be the figures that you would enter down here. So supplies are pretty self-explanatory, but use durable supplies under number 2. So things that are valued at less than $100. And then if you have larger purchases or things that are valued, in excess of $100, $500, then I would record those as other costs. That might be, for instance, you had to fix the stove or you had to replace a piece of machinery or something like that. Remember, we're not going to pay you for them. You're just justifying that you're a nonprofit food service. So you're showing that the expenditures that you're making are in excess of what you're receiving in reimbursement. So we're going to hit certify because I always forget to do that one, and we're going to scroll down and hit save and finish. And one more important step that always gets forgotten is submit for processing. And finish. Now what that's done is it's told us, oops, sorry. It's told us what we've earned for the month, and if we go under details, it will also show us specifically, how many meals we were paid at what rate. And since we're area eligible, they're all paid at the free rate, so this is kind of a boring screen, so we'll go back. But folks often will ask how much of this money goes to one school versus another, and this is where you can easily look that up, that this particular school earned $3,000, that particular school earned $1,500, and so forth and so on. So we get that question a lot about, we don't know who gets how much of the check. All right, so let's delete that because Burlington will be super stoked if they got an extra $3,000, right? All right. Okay, so let's go back over to the PowerPoint. So staff training. So there's a couple of requirements, annual requirements as part of the program. And one is that you receive annual training, and that can be accomplished in many different ways by many different individuals within your organization. So any person that attends either the Child Nutrition Summer Institute or the CACFP Summer Food Program, Spring Conference, any of those events are counted as your training. And then sometimes we allow for off-site training around nutrition topics with other organizations. So you just need to get permission if you're going to pursue one of those as opposed to one of the training requirements that we offer. But once you receive your annual training, your job is to go back and give the appropriate folks the appropriate topics that they need. For instance, around meal patterns or reimbursement, or when it's appropriate to count for claims or so forth and so on. So there's a list of topics that you may wish to consider when you're thinking about your staff training. And you'd also want to document that so that when we come to do a review, we'll ask, did you conduct your staff training? If so, when, how, where, that sort of thing. So, of course it's not going to work. Your next steps. So some of you have already, you're already quite a ways along in this process, so this slide may not be applicable to all of you, but if you haven't, you need to coordinate with your food service director and the administrator at your school. The only programs that haven't been successful are those that don't have a strong tie between those two individuals and that they're both on board to make this work. So we stress that you have those conversations, and if you need help, we're more than willing to help facilitate some of those conversations if necessary. But I think all of you are kind of already past that point. So one of the documents that Jenna sent to you was the At-Risk After-School Meals Handbook, and there's a link to it here also. I would suggest that you read that because there's a lot of specific questions answered in it. need to complete your application packet and get that back to us. And then you need to contact us once your application packet's complete so that I can set up a technical assistance review with you so that we can get you up and going. So I know many of you are planning to participate in the program beginning the school year. So, you know, we only have a couple weeks to get you on board here. So, let's see.
Do you want to talk about monitoring requirements at all? Some of these schools
Oh,
sites.
yeah. Okay. So one of the pieces that's not in the PowerPoint, and I'll make sure that those of you that it's applicable for get this information right away, is that when you are a organization, in your case a supervisory union or school district, with more than one participating school, you're considered what we call a sponsoring organization and therefore are required to monitor one another. And there's this quick and simple form, and the requirement is that you do it up to 3 times a year. Because you're after school area eligible programming, I've allowed for some folks to do that twice a year depending on how many months you're open for. And you need to do a meal observation. There's a predetermined form that we give to you that helps you make a determination about whether regulations are being followed. In addition to that, you need to make sure that all your folks were trained, that you document that you conduct your required monitoring, and that before you enter a claim for reimbursement that you verify that the meals are eligible for reimbursement. So those are kind of the 3, as a sponsoring organization, you need to be aware of and be able to monitor and justify. So what I'd like to do is speak with Jenna after we finished and figure out which of you those fall for, are applicable with, and we will send you an email with the site review form and those requirements just to make sure that you're all on board with that. So I am.
Open it up for questions?
Yeah, let's open it up for questions.
Okay. So what we'll do is just go ahead and I'm going to unmute. What happened to the...
I don't know, I had to move it.
I think I can do it here. Okay, so I've got a couple questions coming in. I'm also just going to go ahead and unmute everyone so we can kind of have a question and answer. Let me tilt that.
Do what?
Just tilt it. Okay, so everybody should be unmuted now, so feel free to ask a question. And I have a question from Kara saying, is it only the people preparing the meals for the annual training, or is it the people serving that need it as well?
So, Kara, the annual training requirement, so the webinar that you just took, you've met your annual training requirement. Going forward, at least one individual from your organization to come to an annual training, and then go back and share that information with anyone that it's appropriate for. So essentially, at least one person has to be represented at an annual training, and then go back and share that information with everybody else that it applies to.
No, I think it's. Oh, she. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and.
Muted.
Unmuted.
There we go. Okay, hopefully you're able to hear now.
Hello?
One more time, Karen. Okay, she can hear now.
I think it's a bad sign when Jenna mutes me.
There was an accident.
Right. Okay, so the question was about does everyone that's involved with the food service need to come to annual training? And the answer is no. At least one individual needs to represent the organization at annual training. Therefore, any one of you have met the training requirement. The responsibility is that you all go back and train the appropriate folks on the appropriate topics. So we wouldn't expect them all to know how to file a claim because that's not going to apply to someone who's, you know, prepping vegetables in your kitchen, that sort of thing. Does that answer your question?
You're not hearing back. Oh, yes.
Good.
All right. Do folks have other questions? It sounds like the feedback was too much to unmute everyone, so we might just have to have if you have a question, just have you raise a hand or enter a question into the question box. Doesn't look like it.
All right.
So if questions come up, feel free to get in touch with Karen or with me, Jenna, and our contact information is there on the screen. Oh,
let me make a quick correction. I apologize. My email is correct. My telephone number has changed because we moved to Barrie. So unfortunately, it is 802-479-1160. I'm sorry, we'll fix that right away.
all right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time. And if you have questions, feel free to get in touch with us. And also, for those of you that need to, contact us for help, completing the application process. And we're happy to help with anything we can.
Thank you all for participating.
Have a great afternoon.